you fish freaks. Welcome to podcast episode number 59 of the KFO show, Kayak Fishing Obsessed, brought to you by the Wendell Fishing YouTube channel. Over 1,000 videos. I got daily shorts, daily community posts. I do a lot of polls over there, and some of these polls, they pull in sometimes over 2,000 votes, which is a lot of fun because I do ask these questions. I think I know where the answer is going to go. A lot of times I'm wildly surprised. And so if you love that type of thing, I do that daily. I got a weekly podcast, which you're listening to right now, and at least one weekly video. And so if you are not on YouTube a lot, not a problem. If you're listening from Spotify or Apple or whatever, but you are on Facebook, I recently started a group called Kayak Fishing Freaks. So if you are a freak, I am going to show you. Let me go ahead and put that link down here if you're listening in live. Nope, had the wrong link up, folks. Here we go. Check it out. I think I'm like 5 people away from hitting 1,000, and I just started a couple months ago. So pretty excited there. A lot of postings, a lot of good times happen over there. You can get your freak on. All right. Remember, this is an interactive show. It's live. And so ask your questions. If you have a question for my guest tonight or myself, I will do our best to kind of bring those up all throughout the show. But with that said, with over 24 million views, guys, on YouTube alone, the man, the myth, the legend, Chad Hoover. Welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
Pretty good. So I have a question for you before we get started about your group.
Yeah.
I saw it pop up on my recommended groups a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Honestly, I didn't know it was you. But does that mean you have to be a freak who kayak fishes, or does that mean you're a freak about kayak fishing?
I don't know.
Because it's kind of open to interpretation.
Yeah. And if you see some of the things that I manage, there's just plain freaks.
Okay.
Some of the stuff people post, I have to go. I have all these spam filter things set up, so I don't have to do a lot of that. But it catches a bunch. Let's just put it that way. You have a giant one. It's like 100,000 people in there.
Yeah, we're a little over 98,000. Somehow or another, some automated post happened the other day where a bot generated a post about welcoming people that it wasn't our normal welcoming post, and it looked like it was us. And so I had to deal with Facebook for 2 days over that. Anyway, well, congrats on the group, man. 1,000 in a couple months is pretty freaking good.
I'm just cruising in on your coattails, man. You set the way for all this stuff.
I think it took 2 years to hit 1,000 on the original kayak bass fishing group, but early back then Facebook was new. I think the groups are one of the better places to interact. You can actually have linear conversations like you used to be able to on the forums, whereas other ways you have to jump from place to place to place. And topically, the groups do really well. And I like your idea about doing polls. I should do more than those. I really just do pose the question and then I let the comments do their thing. But I should be doing polls so that we have a graphic or numerical representation of what people thought. That's a good idea. I'm gonna steal it.
Steal it. I like your questions.
I do them every now and then, but I should do them more.
I've noticed your questions have been kind of taken. You've got hundreds of responses on your Facebook. They flowing through my eyeballs too. It's fun.
Man, I was really successful on Facebook as the original social media, platform that I did. And dealing with a bunch of mental health crap and just getting triggered really easily. Flipping the live switch and calling people some inappropriate things on Facebook in the highlight of my dealing with too much crap. I kind of decided I needed to get off of Facebook for a while. And once I got over the divorce and through the BS and was in the best place that I've ever been in, I just ventured back on to say, let me test the waters. And I remembered why I originally liked Facebook was for the community aspect. The cool thing about it is if you don't like the way somebody carries himself, I'm not saying you have to do this just because you disagree. I love a spirited disagreement. But if somebody's just a jackass, you could just block them. And guess what? Poof, they don't exist in your world, And the cool thing for me is a lot of people don't realize this, but I was on Facebook very early. And I was kind of an early adopter of the fact that social media was going to be a big thing because we had a really successful forum with kayak bass fishing, and I knew like this is going to kill forums for the most part. There's still some good forums out there, but so we jumped on the bandwagon early, and we started this group. I think the group's 14 years old now.
Oh wow!
You know, and then the forum ultimately got to be a bear because the forum services stopped offering, really good security and spam fighting and all that kind of stuff, and it just got to be a bear. But we were at 51,000 members on the forum before we ultimately shut it down to move over, to the group. And then there was a slow adoption for a while, and then about 6 years ago, so about half of its life ago, it just started growing pretty substantially. And so now that I'm back on Facebook and interacting pretty regularly, I'm in the group quite a bit. A lot of it's lurking, just reading and listening.
Right.
And a lot of it's just trying to be a good supporter of the community and answer questions. And sometimes I got to jump in and be a referee when I see conversations being steered the wrong way. But all in all, I've thoroughly enjoyed about the last 3-4 months of being on there and being, pretty active. Facebook and Instagram were kind of weird today, which has sucked because I had food poisoning last night.
Oh,
And then we didn't go fishing this morning. And then we were kind of stuck inside during the rain. And literally, like, until about 3 o'clock, Facebook was kicking me out. And then Instagram was showing no comments. Did you experience that today at all?
I was actually working today.
It was probably while regular people were at work.
Yeah.
I was in there trying to get ahead and get caught up on some stuff. But yeah, it acted weird for about 4 hours. In fact, Alex Folgera was like, "Dude, Facebook is being stupid. Is it?" And I looked and said, "Yeah, same for me." So, anywho, yeah. So I'll definitely check the group out. I love the little silos of different mindsets and different conversations and kind of how they can change things and people's perspectives on things. The one thing I like about Facebook is it very rarely is so siloed and containerized that once a predominant thought process takes place, that it doesn't just necessarily run away with it because there's enough of a balance for both sides to kind of be heard. I think some of the other platforms are very polarizing. You get on Instagram, if you're having a debate about, carnivore versus vegan, it's going to be like whichever one takes over first is going to own it. And then, not so much on Facebook. I also think there's some older, more cynical people on Facebook. And so therefore they dig in like a tick and they're going to burn it to the ground by God,
This is true. I was on Instagram today, and I posted, of course, you're going to be on tonight, and Alex Rudd chimed in, and he said, "Hey, why don't you ask Chad what happened on the float this past week when you guys were out on the river together? What was he referring to?" I honestly don't know, so I'm curious.
So of this 4 to 6 hour float, depending on how fast you do it, there's like 3 rapids, if that. And then calling them rapids is a little bit of a stretch. The one in particular that he's talking about is probably the only rapid of the rapids. The other 2 are just kind of little riffles in a shoal. But we're coming up on this shoal or this rapid, and he goes, "Hey man, anything to worry about on this upcoming rapid?" And I said, "Nah, man, just stay to the V to the right and follow me." Right. And so I take the lead, and I had put him in my river, my RVR 119, because he's got a shoal in. He wanted to try that boat out. And then Austin had a river. We now have 4 rivers because I picked up my 2 for this season. So therefore I can take people on the river, but still be in a river.
Got it.
So that what I'm about to tell you doesn't happen. So anyway, I jump in the RS 117, which is my grab and go. It's usually my buddy boat, my guide boat, my client boat, whatever you want to call it. So I jump into the RS 117 and I'm going to go through this rapid. But what I wanted to do is, because the camera pole was behind me, I wanted to come in on the high side, and I wanted to kind of hip check the wall so that the camera got really close to it, trying to make it look juicy, right? Yeah. Well, there's this rock and this tree that are next to each other. And the tree, you can see the tip sticking out and it kind of wobbles, right? Well, what I didn't realize is the water had come down since we were there like a week before that. And this rock is leading up to the tree. So I'm going to come in and just cut it past this tree. Boom. Done it a million times. No big deal. So the back of the boat catches the rock. And the way that you flip, let's say my hand's a rock. When a kayak hits a rock, if you lean away from it, what happens is you slide up on it. And now the water pressure builds up over here and
it's pushing it down.
You're gone, right? So the rule is that when you hit a rock, you lean into it. And what I tell clients or people with the first time I'm taking them on a river is lean into it and stab it with your paddle. And then just let the water rotate you around it. And even if you end up backwards, it's better than flipping. So the back of my boat slides up on this rock just perfect. And you can see in the video, I'm literally leaning up as hard as I can. And the front of the boat, I think, then hit the tree limb, because when it hits the rock, it now sucks the nose back around, Yeah. And I was going to pass the rock in the tree. So I think what happened is I hit the rock, slid up on it, I lean into it, but now it brings the nose back, and then it hits the tree. And it was that fast. I mean, it was that fast. We're going to do a video about it, and I'm going to talk about what happened and how it can happen to somebody else, and how there's not being prepared and then there's being overconfident. And then there's some things that I'm going to do differently to my gear now. Like, for example, I used to strap my boxes down when I ran the river, but with the Omni hook system from Bonafide that works with the corner hooks on the Black Pack Pro, you just assume with double bungee and hooked into that it's secure. It is not secure. It ripped that Black Pack out of the back of my kayak.
Wow.
Like wiping some butter off a toast. It was gone. Lost 2 rods. I lost no tackle boxes. And I lost 1 power box from Dakota Lithium.
So lost, never retrieved?
Yes, as in it's still in the river.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we're going to go back there at lower flow and try to retrieve those rods and reels. I think, sitting in fresh water, the reels will be okay after a week. The 2 rods may be broken because they were the first 2 to hit. Not 100% sure, but had 4 rods, lost 2. Finished out the float with those 2 rods and ended up catching the biggest fish of the trip after I flipped.
Nice.
I had a ditch bag in my truck because I was like, I always have a ditch bag with me. And what a ditch bag is it's a little dryer lint in a Ziploc bag, a fire starter, 2 sets of socks, 2 sets of dry clothes, and you just roll the dry bag up and clip it up. And so you got it. That way, if you need to pull over on the bank, start a fire, change clothes, get warm, if you happen to flip your kayak, I always have a ditch bag. So I broke 2 of my own rules. One, I got overconfident in a rapid. I was not in a boat that was designed to perform in a rapid.
Right.
I got too close to it for the sake of showing off, and basically I went in and was pointing to where Alex needed to go, but I probably should have been where he needed to go as well. And then once the back of the boat hits that rock and you're up on it, water pressure does its thing at that point, and water's violent. And I'll just admit it. Flipped me out the boat. I rolled up, got up, did the Superman thing like you're supposed to do. Get your feet upstream.
Right.
Whatever you do not be going downstream with your foot, because your foot will go into a rock. You'll get a rock entrapment, and then your PFD will help kill you, because the pressure on the PFD will push your ass underwater. You'll lay out flat, and I don't care how strong your buddies are, you're probably going to die. So again, first thing I did is I grabbed the boat. You think to yourself, Superman, don't die, play out, pulls my pants down to my ankles. So now I'm in the river, holding onto the kayak, going downstream.
Sorry,
total ass
funny now.
World.
Not funny then.
Waited till I got past the rapid. I hop up. Rudd comes in behind me. I'm pretty sure Rudd and I know each other on a more intimate level than we ever should have because of that. And then
is he rolling as well?
No,
this whole thing?
No, yeah, it's on camera.
Okay.
And then my front camera shows me, like I said, trying to lean upstream, trying to do the right thing. And then the back camera, because I had taken the door off and plugged in the power cord to the power box, pretty much as soon as it hits, it's over. So we lost that footage and it won't dock. But we got Rudd's video of it from his camera because he's right behind me.
Yeah.
And then we got my front camera with me like, oh. So we'll put that together as a pretty cool compilation. When I go back to the river next time, I'm going to get Austin to pop the drone up, and we're going to do the line of where you should go and where you shouldn't go and why you shouldn't go. And then I'm probably going to do a video of a rock broach and how to do it properly.
Yeah.
A rock broach is simply a trick I teach people. I taught Austin when he was 10. You go downstream, you close your eyes, you hold your paddle, and you float. And then when you hit a rock, you start practicing your instinct of not leaning away from it, because instinctually or intuitively, most people lean away from a rock. Well, when you do, you slide up on it, and the water pressure builds up on the upstream side of the boat, and you're gone. And then it turns into a yard sale.
What's crazy about that is it just, I can't wait to watch the video because it happens so fast.
Dude, it was so fast. It was like, and I tell people it's going to happen fast. I've flipped in a river probably 3 times.
Okay.
In my life. One of them was being stupid and playing kind of on a wave.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was a legit, got in a bad situation, had too much gear on the boat, flipped it, learned my lesson. And that was 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Austin's 24. So he was probably 11. Yeah, about 15 years ago on the Susquehanna. Okay. But I mean, that dude was surfing waves on the Susquehanna when he was 10, 11 in a tarpon. Myself and Jeff Little used to teach him. Another guy named Aaron Johnson, who's a good friend of mine, we'd take him up, put him on the waves. And so he's naturally just got he grew up with the butt switch of what to do in the water and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's probably my third time in my life, which is not a lot considering the thousands of river trips that I've done and some of the crazy scenarios that I've put myself in. But it's crazy, man. Like, would not be the river that I would have ever expected to end up in the water on. Very benign. Like I said, one okay little rapid, not a class 3, class 2 little, just a simple V swoop turn. Nothing, no eddy out, no ferrying, nothing really
unassuming.
Technical.
That's what's scary about it, right? It just goes to prove it can happen to anyone, anytime in their career or hobby, no matter how long you've been doing this. So,
and I'll talk about it when we do the video, but like bulges and pushes are 2 of the most deceptive things you'll ever run into. When you see the riffle, you pretty much know that there's something right below there. But when there's a bulge, it looks smooth, it looks inviting, and then it's one of the most dangerous things you can ever run your nose of your kayak into. Our boats are not rockered up like a whitewater boat. You're not going to spin out and do some of that crazy stuff. And we also drag a lot on our boats in shallow water. And so we kind of burr up the bottom of the boat. And when you hit one of those rocks, unlike a smooth boat, it grabs, you know what I mean? Those little curls and those little nicks and stuff will dig into that boat. And I think that's a little bit of what contributed to where I was at. So, yeah. But we'll do a whole conversation about that in a video, because I'm not the kind of person to keep something like that to myself. I'm going to fall on the sword and share it with the world and talk about the 3 things that I should have done different and 2 tips that I swear by that I didn't do on that trip that could have cost me. The one, not having the ditch bag and the fire starter. And then the other one, not having a backup paddle. Because if the crap had hit the fan, and I don't believe in leashes on a river, but if the crap had hit the fan and that paddle got away from me, not having a paddle when you've got another 2 miles to go on a river is it's a problem. So, we'll talk about that in an upcoming video as well.
Well, let me switch here. I got some people chiming in on the comments here. Knucklehead says, "Hey, I missed your kayak fishing show." Very cool. Bridges Bates, check this out. I'm still awake at nearly 2 a.m. in the UK just to listen to this podcast.
That's awesome.
My man, that is awesome. And USA Kayak Fishing, We need to start a GoFundMe for those rods. Yeah, it still hurts me a little bit to.
Dude, you know what's crazy is the worst part about it was 2 years ago, I treated myself to a Metanium, which is like, it's the most expensive reel I've ever owned.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most expensive reel I will ever own. And I treated myself to it, right? I had it. And then I ultimately ended up to the point where I like Chronarchs, and I'm dabbling with some Abu stuff now. And I'm going to be doing some real comparisons and tackle comparisons and reviews this year. And, so I played around with a couple of Ruds, setups and stuff. And I started researching some of the Abu stuff, and I like the higher speed gear ratios and some of that. So I'm gonna potentially add a couple of those to the arsenal. But I sprung for that Metanium, and it's like the most money I've ever spent on something fishing related, and that Metanium is in the river.
Oh,
so probably shouldn't be taking rods like that and reels like that
the
on
river.
the river. But
like you said,
yeah,
you never thought in a million years that would be
yeah,
the
I
river.
wouldn't have taken it on a more aggressive river. And then the other part is I got tether tubes on the black pack. I could have just hooked a little hook on there. Just all these little things that I just didn't do because of overconfidence. Overconfidence is what really kind of put me in the situation. And having that extra confidence is what kept me from securing my stuff. And so we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to make some recommendations that no matter what level of experience that you have in the river, here's a couple of things that are you got to do just in cases. It's like being an experienced skydiver and not having a backup chute. I'm fine. I've done this a million times.
Right.
Right. You never need it until that one time.
Well, let me switch gears on you a little. One of the reasons I want to have you on tonight, one, we're pushing 100. We're at 97 live right now, which is pretty awesome. So pumped about that. If you haven't done so, please hit the like button, get this some extra juice on the YouTube once it's all said and done. But Chad, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Knucklehead, I know I talked about it, but we've got a lot of new people coming in on the podcast. Share a little bit about what the Knucklehead was last year, and understanding that we've made some changes this year. So help cast a vision for it this year, because I'm going to be a part of it again. And so hit me.
So what the Knucklehead series is, on my YouTube channel, my community kind of named itself. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I said something about knuckleheads. Thank you, knuckleheads, in a video. Some clown jumped in and goes, I can't believe this guy calls his fans stupid people. I don't really think of it fans and followers. I think of it more of community, and I'm part of it. And within that context of my channel, I am the voice of it, but it's a community, right?
Yeah.
And so a bunch of people jumped in and said, he's not calling us stupid people. He refers to himself as a knucklehead as well. We're all knuckleheads. I'm a proud knucklehead. You don't get it. You might blah, blah, blah. And I was at ICAST at the time. So I was kind of not staying up on the comments because you've been to ICAST. It's like it's run and gun. When you get out of ICAST, you're going out to dinners and networking meetings and all that other stuff. And it's like, so by the time I'd gone back and look at it, there's 150, 200 comments. So in the next video, I said, hey, I want to thank you, knuckleheads, for coming to the defense, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a knucklehead. Y'all are knuckleheads. So then it became a thing. Everybody refers to each other. I'll be driving down the interstate and somebody will pull up next to me, roll their window down. I'll be like, I'll roll the window down. They're like, what's up, knucklehead? And so the knucklehead thing just kind of stuck. And so I don't look at it like I own it or it's just us. I think it's everybody that fishes out of a plastic piece of Tupperware and spends a whole bunch of money to make it, as an advanced simple watercraft as we can, is got to be a knucklehead, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is. So I talked to a couple of buddies and said, man, I want to do a more fun series where we can engage the fans, engage the followers, engage the community. And it's not being about being super serious. We can tie the charity component to it, yada, yada, yada. And after about 3 phone calls and conversations, the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series was born. Not to completely rehash too much of what happened last year, But we put everybody under one umbrella.
Yep.
Everybody had individual leaderboards. It was a little bit confusing, and we didn't have some structural things thought out. For example, we didn't think about the fan that actually watched everybody that was going to jump on there and catch 115 inches and dominate every challenge across the board to where everybody else was like, oh, crap.
I'm out.
So one of the changes that we're doing this year is the maximum number of knuckleheads that you can fish at once is 2.
Okay.
At the end of the event, so we're going to shut the leaderboards off like 24 hours to the end, kind of like we do an hour before at the big events.
Right.
At the end of the event, if there's a person who's won 2 different knuckleheads, we're going to call that person and say, hey, you just won, Jeff and Paul's thing.
Yep.
Which one of the aggressively average knuckleheads do you want to fish with? Oh, I'm going to fish with Paul, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Then I'll take them off of the Jeff leaderboard. And when the leaderboard comes back on, the person that wins will be in the winning position.
No guesswork.
Then that person is also done fishing, right? So the other thing we did last year, thinking we're taking care of the community, is we did the 4-pack where you could buy your entry into all 4 events.
Right.
What we didn't think about is now somebody's going to win it in the first one, but they've already paid for the other 3, so they're going to want to keep competing so that they can put their name out there more. Well, then that just further makes it complicated because we had one guy that won all 4 months, and every time I had to call him, dude, what team do you want to be on? So this year, each influencer or team captain will have their own page, so the leaderboard thing won't be confusing.
Okay.
There will be only 4 months, and all the months are going to be the same now. We used to do it where it was like Gene and I started in March, you started in May,
Yep.
These guys started in April, so that was also confusing for some people. So this year we're going to kick it off with Mayhem, which is our big thing. 50% of the field qualifies for the KBF National Championship, and this year I'm doing the same thing with the Knucklehead. 50% of each one of the events each month in May is going to qualify for the national championship, and then 25% June, July, August. And then we're going to take off September. We're not going to do a wild card team this year. So that September can just be like the crap talking month. And then in October, we're going to actually do the event earlier this year. We're going to do it earlier because we're also going to line it up with the KBF championships. So that way, if you do happen to dabble in both, like, for example, you said you're going to fish the state challenges.
Yep.
Well, if you qualify for the state challenges, the Knucklehead series is actually going to be a little bit of pre-fishing for the state challenge championship and for the trail series championship, because those championships are going to be the following weekend, but they're Thursday and Friday. So realistically, you could take off, Saturday through the following Sunday, and you could be there for both events instead of having to travel twice. So that'll be October 4th weekend through the 10th and 11th weekend. And, for a lot of people, that's Columbus Day week anyway. It's already a 3-day weekend. So if you want to fish the Knucklehead, you come down there, you do it. If you want to hang out for the other stuff, you can. If not, no big deal. Now, here's the one thing that is a big change. And, you as the defending champion that are part of the reason. Yes, it's cool that a team can grind and then right at the end go catch that one fish that puts it over the top. But we want a team championship. We want that drama to build. So what better way to build it than to have the event be 2 days? So for example, if Team Gramps had won it, been leading all day long, and then you came out at the end and took the lead by a quarter of an inch or half inch or whatever it was, but then you had to go back to the drawing board that night and figure out what your team going to do the next day.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a whole nother creature, right?
Heck yeah.
It's a whole nother deal. So what we're going to do this year is, instead of worrying about the wild card team and instead of worrying about all that, the Friday is going to be kind of a fun fishing day for everybody, but we're going to have the meet and greet that Friday night.
Yep.
And that's going to all be kind of like a little mini captain's meeting, but it's going to be more about these folks that are fishing on the teams for who they're a fan of or a follower of or whatever, a chance to meet them, but to also meet the other captains that they also may follow or be a fan of. And that was probably the biggest feedback that I got from the participants was, I wish there would have been more forced interaction with the other team captains and things like that. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to set up and we're going to do like a panel, like the captain's panel.
Oh, okay.
We're all sitting up there and everybody in the series gets to ask us questions, gets to do that thing. And we kind of have like an open forum discussion.
That's
and
a
then
good
what
idea.
I think I'm going to do is set up like a table for each of the captains, and you can go sit at your table. And if people want to meet you, they can come over, they can get an autograph, they can take a picture, they can punch you in the head, whatever. But that's what Friday's going to be for. Saturday, since there isn't a real reason to meet for official judging or anything like that, because it's a 2-day event,
right?
We're going to have some kind of Saturday night social where it's like unorganized. It's not required, but the vast majority of people are going to go to this one place and meet up. So you can either do your thing with your team back at your place and strategize, or we'll have this social event that everybody can come to, and it'll be fun. It'll probably be at the same spot.
Yeah.
But it'll be more about the fun aspect of it, and then maybe do a couple of seminars, do some stuff that's, just kind of fun, and then have the award ceremony on Sunday. And everybody can either take off Monday and Tuesday, pre-fish Monday and Tuesday for the championships that starts Thursday and Friday, or hang out and fish for a couple days because you have the time, and then just go home. So to me, making it more of a community aspect is the more important thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're gonna basically run it where each captain's got their own page for May, June, July, August. Take off September, and keep the prices the same. Let each captain coordinate their prizes. Do the overall charity commitment. The whole thing. The major difference is everybody's doing all the same months. We got a couple of new captains, one of them being the Knucklehead who called me out on the flipping the boat. And we've got a couple of other folks that I'm actually talking to that are, seriously interested, have one or two other life hurdles they've got to sort out to figure out if they can come. I am going to call back out Clay Guida and John Cruz because both of them were committed last year and had to bail. Alex was committed last year, lost his dad. That was super understandable, but he's committed to jumping back in this year.
Good.
Talked to TJ over at Kayak USA, at TJ at Kayak USA, and he had a lot of stuff going on last year and couldn't do it. I kind of hit him up about it late, and then I've got a few other people that I'm in dialogue with that I think that if we can get them on board, it just takes the whole experience and experiment of a more social team fishing tournament to the next level.
Yeah, so you're you're increasing it by like 20% of teams.
Something like that.
Right. Yeah,
I'm trying to manage this thing to where it can be, crawl, walk, run, fly.
Yeah.
I'm looking at year 4 and 5 kind of being the breakout year where we're doing like a $50K payout, 15, 10, 7,500 for like second through fourth place team, kind of a deal. And I think it's easily attainable. It's just that I really want to get the formula dialed in because I learned a lot last year about if there's things you don't think about that anglers can exploit and take advantage of, they will. So I want to make sure that we have that really dialed in ahead of time.
What I love, Chad, is I hear all the things the changes that you're making is all the feedback that I heard as well. So I appreciate that you listened, and not only you listened, you actually took action on every single one of those. I am jacked up that it's a 2-day event. I'm so pumped about that.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. It's and I'm gonna be straight with you. Should I drop something like exclusive on here?
I go. I like it.
I mean, so it's going to be a 2-day, 2-lake event.
Oh, come on now. Ooh, it's got juicy now. You can't go back to the same spot you're ripping them on the day before.
So now you can't just go juice them up on Guntersville because you're going to have to fish one day on Guntersville and one day on Wheeler.
Okay.
So it's going to be a whole nother, you see what I'm saying?
See, my team last year consists of one guy who fished Guntersville and another guy who fished Wheeler almost consistently. I just need them to be on my team again. And I'll be set.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's it. That's easy.
And part of the reason I'm doing that is to shake it up, for one. And the other reason is that I think that people just default to Guntersville because it's got the name.
Mm,
But if people will spend their time and get on Wheeler and learn it, it's a different creature than most people think it is. There's a reason they had the FLW Cup there, 2 or 3 times. There's a reason that Wheeler's got a reputation as one of the best smallmouth fisheries in the country if you're in the know.
mm,
A lot of people think Pickwick is the, top 3, top 4 bass fishing lakes in the country. Well, it is. But Wheeler's like right on the other side of a dam from it. It's a world-class smallmouth fishery.
right.
It's a world-class kayak fishery, lots of backwaters, lots of creeks, lots of things that make it a dynamic fishery. And so having it to where you have to fish one lake one day and one lake another day is going to make it fun. He said, making sure we don't beat him again. No, it just means you got to. It just means you got to get out there and fish. I mean, honestly, their whole team was Guntersville, and they were all within a half a square mile of each other, except for one team member. So this is going to force a little bit of diversity.
Sly Fox Fishing says, yep, he's messing with us out of towners. We're still coming down though. I love it.
It's not any harder,
No.
It's just that you just got to have a game plan to fish 2 different days on 2 different lakes.
That was part of the fun. Whenever I had my team last year, we literally got together. We were pulling up maps. We were looking at Navionics. We were doing this. People were pre-fishing who lived around the area. That was part of the blast for me, right? Is just the weeks and months leading up to it. So, man, good time. Thanks for dropping the juice. I'm excited about that. So, October 4th, that weekend. So, for those of you who are like still planning on Veterans Day weekend, mark your calendars. I already took the time off because I know you texted me earlier this week. So,
yeah, Veterans Day weekend, I really want to go back to what our original plan was, which is to create fish camp on that weekend. And the CAMP stands for Camaraderie and Mentoring Program. And I want people to be able to gather in place, meaning let's pick 10, 15, 20 locations around the country and go to the closest one to you and gather in the name of, veterans, in the name of the sport, in the name of community, and make it that more about the social aspect of it than the competitive aspect of it. But everybody share the social experience in the groups and on social media and things like that, because I really think that there's a need to pivot towards kind of getting together again and breaking bread and doing some of the things that made kayak fishing great in the early days, with things like the boondoggle and some of those kind of old things that a lot of people have, either forgotten about or they never even knew. Like, they came into kayak fishing after that didn't even exist anymore. And what the boondoggle used to be was just a couple guys from Kentucky created it. And they would just say, we're going to get together in Florida. We're going to get together in Louisiana.
right.
And it was kind of like the Sturgis of kayak fishing. There'd be 450 people show up for a weekend. There'd be some seminars. There'd be some vendors. There'd be entertainment. And I just kind of want to bring that back. I think that, it's missing. And I like kind of what Drew Gregory's doing with the Kayak Adventure series. I'm hoping that that's successful because, I just think that we're saturated with the KBF Trail Series, the Bass Nation Kayak Series, the Hobie BOS. And, if I had to guess, I think that the Hobie and KBF series are going to struggle in that trail environment. And I think Bass is going to continue to kind of do well and potentially even run away with it because, one, they have the resources. They've got the history. That iconic blue trophy is just something different. And for the first 3 or 4 years that they did it, or however long been doing it, they didn't do it right. They kind of treated the kayak fishing thing like, oh, look, the little kayak guys with the novelty. It didn't get the coverage it should have gotten. It didn't get the social media treatment. It didn't get the magazine coverage. I remember the first weigh-in that I went to, the announcer said, all right, guys. Oh, look. Oh, you guys have sponsors? Like, it was very condescending. Like, oh, look. Oh, you caught that fish from a kayak? That must have been really tough. And at the end, he was like, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the kayak fishing tournament. So now it's time for the real weigh-in. And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
no, you didn't. But they've, like anything else, they've transitioned. They've pivoted. They're doing full spread articles about it. They're posting the winners on their social media platform. They're fully embracing it. And it's just, people have asked me, how do you feel about competing with bass? Well, I don't necessarily need to. I didn't start tournament series to be Bassmaster. I started a tournament series because there wasn't one. And people just kept going, you should do it. You should do it. You should do it. And I did it. And then, but I think now, it's potentially run its course. And we were the powder keg that started a lot of this. And now there's too much. There's all the regional series around the country that have kind of regionalized. And when those regional events take 10, 15, 20 people out of the rotation that used to have to travel,
right,
now the numbers go down. And then when you got bass coming in, that's the 800-pound gorilla, they're obviously going to attract the better numbers. They're going to the good lakes. They're going to the right lakes at the right time. What's to compete with? In fact, it might be better for me to just jump in and fish those things so I can scratch my competitive itch and then focus on continuing to do the trail, but pivot to a team series or pivot to more of an open format. I don't know. The deal is we're going to run this year. We had our first great event. It was successful. We didn't get the numbers we expected, but it was hard to come behind bass the weekend before,
right,
with massive turnout. And at the beginning of the season, when people still have a lot of fishing left to do, they can't, blow all their days and travel time and, brownie points with mama and budget and all that other stuff. So we're going to see how we do at the Guntersville event after the national championship, which is coming up in a little over a month or a little under a month.
Okay.
The national championship is always one of our bigger events, if not our biggest event. We're doing this year the national championship and enrolling right into a trail series weekend on Lake Guntersville. So it's a good opportunity to come down and fish and learn that particular fishery if you're going to be in on the Knucklehead series or if you're going to try to participate and qualify for one of the championships because it's going to be on the same waters. Then we go to Sandy Cooper, which is always a unbelievable fishery. And then we finish it up on Chickamauga, which is one of the top trophy lakes in the country right now, one of the better managed lakes for trophy fish on the entire, excuse me, on the entire Tennessee River system. And so I feel like we've got 4 good lakes, 4 good dates, 4 good opportunities, and we're just going to have to see how it works out with all the competition that's out there with all the other series.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the Knucklehead because I think it's a completely different demographic. It's a completely different group of folks. And I want to keep it different. And I just love the team aspect of it. I loved watching people become better anglers because of the team that they ended up on and how the teams worked with each other. I got invited to jump in on a couple of the live streams of the team members and kind of help. And then some of them, after I watched their live stream and I saw the amount of map study that they've done and all the information that they had, I was like, you don't really need my help. You kind of
did it.
Got it figured out. I couldn't believe how well some of the teams had dialed in some of the more key areas as specifically as they did. Like, I didn't expect anybody to find Spring Creek. I didn't expect anybody to find Browns Creek, at least not the first year. And half the damn tournament was in Spring Creek and Brown Creek. You know what I mean? Which was crazy.
It was crazy.
And normally I could go to either one of them and make a milk run and have the fish I need to win. Every damn dock I went to, one of you knuckleheads was sitting on skipping baits up underneath it. And I was like, shoot. So I got to have a better game plan next year. And I think we're all going to have to. But it gives us a long time to talk about it, to break down both fisheries. I'm going to go out and do some YouTube videos talking about places to launch, talking about places to catch fish, talking about, the seasonal progression and what you're looking for and things like that. Because the idea is that I don't want people to come in there and only a few people find success. I want everybody to have the trip of their lifetime.
Yep.
And then the best team win,
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So. Yeah, man.
Morgan Smith Images said, I didn't think I heard any Oklahoma locations mentioned in your list there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, sorry. So
Not
if
right
you're
now.
good,
Just tell Morgan, I can tell you this. We had a Tulsa location last year, and 2 weeks before the event, there was like 12 people signed up. So
there were we. He probably wasn't even one of them either. So they're complaining.
we're going to Grand, and it's where the Classic is this year. So I can't pick a better lake than the place that the damn Bassmaster Classic's going to. And we promoted the heck out of it. It's just that there's a lot of, I don't know, there's just so much going on all over the country right now that it's really hard to attract big crowds to all of these events now that there's as many of these events as there are.
Makes sense. So I follow all the kayak bass fishing stuff and noticed a guy last week won double first place. What happened there? That sounds like an amazing weekend.
So the way our format works, because we originally only did a 1-day event, and because of COVID, people couldn't travel as much. And if they were going to travel, they then had to quarantine. So one of the things we come up with is, what if we did 2 tournaments at each location? So then you really only had to travel to 2 locations to get your 4, which we count 3 towards the championship and then 1 at the championship. So you can do 4 tournaments and you got 1 kind of throwaway. If you can go to 3, then you got 6 for your best 3. And so we do 2 events. We do a Saturday trail and a Sunday trail. And the idea is if you have a bad day one day or the other, you can still have a great event.
Right.
I personally think that at the upper echelon of competition, the 2-day format truly separates who's the better angler. But that's why we have a 2-day championship, because we do that. But I think that based on the limited amount of travel and time off and sponsorships that kayak anglers have, we wanted to keep our series more everyman, more blue collar, more, lower barrier to entry.
Yep.
So you can fish a Saturday event or a Sunday event, or you can fish both. And so Tim Isaacs, who's been a long time competitor across the country, long time supporter of KBF, he fishes all the series. Has always been that guy that's put together really good limits. He's got quite a few top 10s, just never had that breakout performance. And so on day 1, we were about 30 minutes before shutting the leaderboard off, 2 hours left of fishing, and Tim just rushes to the top.
Wow.
And then never relinquished the lead. So on day 2, we kind of start the day off, and then, I don't know, 11 o'clock, he doesn't even have a fish on the board yet, or at least not one that's putting him, in the top 10 that I was, reporting on all day.
Okay.
And then around, I don't know, 11:30, 12 o'clock, he just starts dropping fish, and he starts inching his way up the leaderboard. And then Jimmy McClurkin jumps into the lead, and based on the conditions and the later bite, I had told Chris Musinski, who does a lot of the judging and helps me on the back end with stuff. We're actually going fishing with him down here in Florida at the end of this week. But I said to Chris, I said, man, this thing is a long ways from over. Corey Dreyer had jumped into the lead, and he got knocked down a couple. And Jimmy McClurkin jumped into the lead. And then I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but there was some back and forth. And then Ryan Madalowicz jumped into the lead and was kind of holding the lead. And it looked like, based on what the previous day's catches were and then kind of the overall change in catch size, that Ryan might have had it locked up. He had done, pretty well on day 1, didn't finish out winning the event, ended up in 4th place. But all of a sudden, Tim drops another fish.
Wow.
And another fish. And then we've got this thing on the back end of Fishing Chaos called the Courthouse. And so I remember Tim had moved up to like 3rd or 4th. And I click on the Courthouse and it refreshes. And there's Tim Isaac's name. And then there's Ryan Madalowicz's name. And then there's, a couple of other guys in the top 10.
What's the Courthouse?
The Courthouse is the back end for judging.
Got it.
It's the coolest thing if you're a tournament director out of any of the apps out there, because it puts everything in there. You don't have to go looking for them. So I click on Tim's name. My phone dings. It's a text message from Chris Musinski. Dude, this Tim guy. And I'm looking at the fish, and I'm like, holy crap. And he had just put another upgrade on the board. This moves him into the lead, but then he had 2 more upgrades after that.
Wow, he was hammering
really
down.
Separated him. So we go into the award ceremony, and everybody knew Tim had won day 1, but Jimmy McClurkin had been leading on day 2, so I bring the 2 of them up there, and then as Jimmy's walking up, I said, all right, let me get these 2 guys up here. And Jimmy walks up and goes, just give me my second place trophy. He had somehow kind of done the math on it, and him and Tim had talked behind the scenes, but that ends up making Tim take home now double champ status. And we got the cool graphic with him holding the 2 trophies and the 2 champion checks and all that kind of stuff. So from the standpoint of the right thing happening to the right people at the right time, you know, there's a lot of these guys and gals that I'd love to see win at any given time. But we've had 3 or 4 other double sweeps in the history of the trail where people have won both events. I think 3 total.
Okay.
You know, out of probably 165 events.
Wow. Okay.
And
Not
so the first year we did the trail, we had 47 events. Then we went down to 40, then 36, and then we just kind of kept working our way down because there was more events that were in those areas already locally. You know, series pops up, club trails pop up, things like that. But Tim, very matter of fact guy, never real high, never real low. You can always count on him to be, you know, dependable. Not really flashy about the win, just kind of like embraced it. But to have a guy that's as well spoken as he is, as solid a demeanor, you know, he's a little bit older dude, so it shows that, you know, this ain't just for young spring chickens and that kind of thing. And I like his straightforward demeanor. He goes out and fishes how he fishes, and he makes the fishing that he does work, and he's always consistent. But this event, the type of fishing that he was doing just lined up for him. And not only did it line up, but it lined up 2 days in a row for him to have taken home, you know, 2 paydays. That's the other cool thing about it, is that if you did well enough to win a 2-day tournament, you're going to win a pretty good chunk of change.
Yeah.
But with KBF, the way that it works is you're winning 2 different times. So when you add those 2 totals together, you know, it's a pretty good number. But you still have a chance. Let's say you go out in a 2-day tournament and you're leading day 1 and you tank on day 2. You take home exactly $0 in winning.
Right.
The way our stuff works is you go out and you win the day, and then the next day, if you don't do so well, you didn't go home empty-handed.
Right.
So I was excited to see Tim win. I think it was long overdue for him to get that kind of recognition and accolades. And you know, we only had 66 people there, but if you look at the leaderboard, if you look at who's there, it was the who's who of kayak anglers. You know, there was, of the top 12, most of them had been in the KBF, the 10, which is one of our, if not our most elite event. Several of them are multi-time the 10 champions and multiple Trail Series champions, tournament champions with Hobie, Bassmaster Trophy winners. Like, there was the field of people that he had to beat was still massive, considering that we only had 66 people in the trail. So no less of an accomplishment, because he still beat the same, you know,
upper echelon of
hammers,
performers, right?
You would have to beat in any other tournament, you know, inside the top 30.
Wow.
So, yeah, man.
Well, that's awesome. Congrats to him. It's quite a feat. I'm glad it's when it's a long time coming. It's like, you get yours. That's awesome. So I'm going to finish off.
And that's a handful of hardware too. Those KBF trophies are like, massive. They're substantial. And, you know, when we say hand you the hardware, we're handing you the hardware, you know, it's, and so, his truck was heavier going home for sure.
I love it. So I want to finish off with one kind of question here. So looking into 2024 when it comes to kayak fishing, I have a feeling I know what the answer to this is, but let's spend the rest of our time here. What is the number one conversation that you are getting pulled into right now around kayak fishing? And this might be personally, this might be tournament director. What would that be? Because I love your perspective because you have, it comes with decades of experience and you unique as a tournament director and you're a performer when it comes to
Right.
being out there and getting it done. What is that conversation right now?
I mean, this isn't going to come to as any surprise to anybody. We're not talking about any other hot button item in fishing right now in any part of it that's hotter than forward facing sonar
Yep.
or live scope, live target, active target. And there seems to be very little middle. There's the no camp and the pro camp. And then there's some mediator people who I see kind of jumping in on both sides, but more to stir the pot than to actually
Help.
make real effective points. I had a really good conversation with a buddy of mine named William Vest from Oklahoma about this. And I made the analogy that I think it's funny when I click on a guy's account who is a staunch anti-live target, live scope, active target, whatever you want to call it, person. But then just as recently as December, November, October, he had trail camera pictures on his account because most people that fish, hunt and hunt, fish and all that. And it's like, to me, trail cameras are more effective for killing deer than live target is for catching fish.
Right.
And the reason that I say that is, at least with the active target or live scope, it's got the word built into it. It's active. You're sitting there looking at it. Okay, it might be boring to watch. I also like all the comparison videos where you're watching somebody from behind who's doing live scope and you're watching somebody from behind who's doing a shaky head, and it looks exactly the same.
Right.
But that being said, the part that kills me is the hypocrisy in it. Is this technology is crap. And then you go to their page, here's a turkey foot number 7 on my back 40 coming to the trail camera at 8:14 a.m. So the next day I set up early and blah, 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 blah. And here's why I think trail cameras are even more deadly for hunting. It's because they're out there all the time. They're passively gathering information while you're sitting on the couch or asleep or all this other stuff. Whereas at least with active target, you're out there actively having to find the fish.
Right.
I also think the conversation, and my buddy Williams said, I don't think trail cameras is a good analogy. I think it's more like FLIR. Yeah, but again, FLIR, forward-looking infrared, you're going out there and you're scanning for them, and you can't technically use FLIR to shoot animals except for hogs. And even with FLIR, it's not that much more effective than spotlighting them at night because you can go out there and just shine a light, you see them and you shoot them because their eyes glow. So to me, the argument is kind of true. FLIR and active target or live target are the same, but I think trail cameras are more effective because they're out there. There's no limit on how many you can have out. I've seen guys sitting in the deer stand on videos. Oh, there's a deer coming. And he got a notification on his phone that the deer was coming past one of his trail cameras 100 yards away.
Yeah, right.
He was up there dicking around watching TikTok videos, not even paying attention. And then, I got a notification, get ready. Then the deer walks out and he shoots it.
Right.
When I grew up, you didn't know what the deer where you hunted looked like. You didn't say, oh, here comes old turkey foot claw dabber, named after the horn shape and all this shit, because there was a mystery involved in it. The first time you saw the buck is probably the first time you saw the buck.
Right.
Now, some rich people had property that they sit there and like, oh, look, Timmy, there's that 3-year-old that we've been grooming for Billy Bob to shoot next year. But the average person didn't get to see their deer before they shot it. You know what I'm saying? And most of the places you hung a camera on a tree, it wouldn't last 3 days before it was gone, much less 3 or 4 months or a whole season. And so to me, the argument about where the lines should be drawn for technology is kind of silly. The other argument about it that kind of is funny to me is how it's only the young guys and the young guys and the young guys and all this other stuff. Young guys have been coming into the sport and kicking ass for a long time. Jordan Lee won back-to-back classics in his early 20s before we knew what live scope, active target, or any of that stuff was. Lots of these young guys had been out there kicking butt. Here's why these guys are as good as they are. Not because they embrace technology. And what I'm about to say is probably going to be pretty controversial. But I'm going to say it. Guys my age with the gray in the beard, we don't think digital first because we didn't grow up with it. We didn't have a cell phone. So we don't figure out things by looking it up first. We usually try to figure it out and then look it up. I'll show you the difference just between myself and my son, Austin. If I look something up or if I want to know how to do something, I try to figure it out at least the first time. My son, who's 24, and his generation go, hey, Siri, blah, 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 blah. And it just comes up and it gives them the answer. So they're information adverse to the search process. Doesn't make them lazy. Doesn't make them anything other than they're using the resources, but that's how their brain thought. Now here's the part where I think this may sound controversial and maybe even clipped up and taken as controversial. It's pretty funny that the people that are bitching about live scope and forward-facing sonar are the exact same people that were complaining when Major League Fishing decided to not do live coverage the first 2 days of the event. And the reason that I'm saying this is I think that a live coverage of bass fishing tournaments has been more contributory towards this new generation of kicking ass right out of the gate than the electronics, the live target, the live scope, any of that other stuff. And I'll tell you why.
All right.
Just like my son Austin's in that generation that grew up digital, thinks digital first, thinks that way. These kids that are 19, 20, 21, maybe 22 years old, didn't grow up having to read Bassmaster magazine like I did, having to go to seminars and listen to a pro talk about a technique and then try to visualize it and then go watch a Kevin Van Dam DVD that you ordered online and waited for it to come in and put it in your thing and then watched it. Didn't have YouTube. This generation now has a device in their hand that can answer any question that they ever have about anything. There's 4 or 5 apps out there that'll tell you where and when and how to do things. Then they've been watching live bass fishing their entire adolescence into their early adulthood. So if you think about how much smarter you will be about bass fishing and how you don't need that 30 years of experience and how you, because here's the thing. Unless all of these older pros have done a shitty job of doing their job, then Bass Live and Major League Fishing is more to blame or more of the reason why these young kids are kicking butt than Active Target is or Live Target is, because they've spent their entire fishing career, their developmental years, having the Guggen Squad, having Milliken Fishing, having your channel, my channel, channels like ours, having Gene, on Fluke Master. And then more important than that, having Bass Live and Major League Fishing Live, man, they don't leave any secrets
right
anymore. Okay. So what I think is crazy is that all of these people are up in arms about Live Target, but nobody's bitching about the fact that Bass will have a guy on the water with a camera showing everything that he's doing and then go to a 3D representation of the earth and zoom down to his head sticking up above his boat and show you exactly where he's fishing.
at. Right.
And not just like a week later in the edited version. But in a 4-day tournament on day 3, they're showing you, Hunter Shryock is right here on this dock. It's the one with the white boat next to the, and he's in this cove. And then the next morning when he goes out there, there's 300 boats. Here's the other reason that it's getting harder for these old pros to compete. These young kids don't have a flotilla of people following them on the lake. They don't have a flotilla of 30 other jackasses out there with whoa, 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 like sonar, all crisscrossing each other's beams, because they're not as popular. So they can be off by themselves doing their thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, if you're going to talk about technology and how it's this one thing is so detrimental, then how are there so many dudes losing with it? Like, I've got a challenge to put out there. So if you guys are fans of all things fishing and you watch me and you watch Wendell and you watch Randy Blockett and you watch Ben Milliken, I got a challenge that could end all of this. I think we should all put our chips on the table, and we should give Randy Blockett forward-facing sonar and give him a month to get as good as he can get with it. And then we should put Randy Blockett on a lake with Ben Milliken with no forward-facing sonar. And Randy can pick the lake. And I promise you, Ben Milliken will wipe the floor with him. But none of these guys that are bitching about forward-facing sonar have the sack to buy it, get out there, get good with it, go enter a tournament, go win that tournament so they can get on stage and say, hey, guys, I just want to say this. I only won this tournament because I was using forward-facing sonar, and I think it should be banned. So until they do that, until they actually go out and show it, and it's funny is they're all from Missouri. The leaders of the banter against it are from Missouri. Randy Blockett's from, Springfield or somewhere in the Ozarks in Missouri. Isn't Missouri the show me state? So put up or shut up, because it's so annoying to watch a kid or a mid-tier pro or somebody who's busted their ass and committed their life and gambled. People don't understand how much you put on the line to do what those guys do. I did it myself. I risked my livelihood to do what I love for a living. To have it summarily dismissed by some jackass who just has quick thumbs and jumps on board with the narrative because that's what they heard somebody else say. There are 103 people in the Elite Series. There are a bunch of dudes that caught 3 fish or got skunked with Active Target who have 30 plus years experience. So to me, the way that those pros can prove their point is to not do the woe is me thing after the tournament. I guess I'm going to have to either adapt or get left behind because not having Active Target doesn't have a damn thing to do with why you caught 3 fish in 4 days. If all those other skills were so goddamn good, why couldn't you just go catch okay, he's got 100 pounds. If you had 70, we could have an argument. But when you got 7, in the Navy, we had this thing where we served you a big old cup of shut up. You know what I'm saying? Here's how you can win this argument. Instead of the people that are losing saying the only reason that guy's winning, how about we get some people who go win with it and say that? If it's that damn easy, if it's the cheat code, then try the cheat code, and then you can be the one that's winning with it and saying it should be banned. Until then, because really, I'll buy Randy Live Target 2. I'm not even buying it for myself. I buy it for him and say, now go fish with it. And if you go win a tournament, I'll shut up. You can then be the end all be all of fishing, but it's not. It's a vacuum. It's a controversial topic. It's a way to get views. It's clickbait. And it's that pulpit, that hill that they want to die on. But there's a lot of people not catching fish with Live Target. And here's something else that's going to happen. And I'll end with this.
We're just having some fun, Chad.
The fish have a pretty good way of adapting. They are pretty. This all happened with DSI, by the way. This happened with bass boats going too fast. This happened with Alabama rigs. I remember when Alabama rigs was going to be the reason the whole bass, ain't no bass going to be able to get uncaught. You ain't got a man, ban it. It's going to be the end of fishing. It's too effective. When's the last time you heard somebody get an Alabama rig knock down, drag out? You know, so it's the newest thing. But these young kids are not winning because they're the only ones embracing technology. They're winning because they have a comprehensive knowledge that they've collected through the resources that we as professionals in this industry have put out there. I would be more upset if we didn't have some 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds that were coming along kicking ass, because what have we been doing live streaming fishing for the last 15 years, 10 years aggressively, if it wasn't going to improve the quality of fishermen that grew up in the generation being able to have that information at their disposal?
Yeah. It's the whole reason people are listening right now. Increase the learning curve.
And here's the thing. We have got a generation coming of a lot more of those kids. And, you know, if you didn't want them to get better than you, you should have been complaining to Bass about live, and you should have been complaining to Major League Fishing about live, because that, to me, live viewing is way more effective than live target and more effective than live scope, because you're actually getting to see these people, what they're doing, where they're doing it, how they're doing it. They're talking through the thought process. They have a stream of consciousness while they're fishing. You're getting to hear those adjustments. And guess what? If you're an information sponge, you're onboarding that stuff. And then the next time you're out there and you're faced with that situation, a little bit of hair on the back of your neck stands up and you go, oh yeah, I remember when I saw so-and-so do this, and you do it, then you get success from it. Now that's imprinted on your brain.
Yep.
And it's reinforced, and then you do it more. So you take young, youthful enthusiasm and combine it with knowledge and technology. Why are we surprised that this generation is doing better than the last generation? We have force-fed them information for almost 2 decades.
Right.
We have live streamed it to them for almost a decade. If we weren't getting this product, everything that we say about why we do what we do is bullshit. It's for the next generation until one of them wins, and then everybody wants to shit on them. Don't you find that part a little bit hypocritical as well? Ain't no way a little 19-year-old kid should go out there and catch 130 pounds. Well, he did. They didn't jump in the boat.
Right.
You know, the other things that are silly to me are the steroid comparisons and all this other crazy stuff. It's like, okay, again, I'm going to say this one more time tonight. If it's that easy, I want somebody who believes that to go show it. And then when you get on that stage, then say it. Don't stand in the back of the crowd grumbling, or go over in the corner or bitch on your way home on social media. Go win it and say, this is too effective. I think we should ban it. I'm going to keep using it, and I'm going to keep winning and show you some bitches that it is too effective. But until somebody does that.
No. So I got a comment over here from Detroit Michigan. So I'm guessing KBF will not be putting a ban on FFS anytime
We're going to ban FFS for anybody that complains about it. That way you can be part of the solution if you really think it shouldn't be. No, we're not. We're not at all.
Well, there you go. Well, Chad.
Because I firmly believe the other thing that I believe about technology is, and I hear this a lot. Oh, God, man, it's getting too expensive for the average man. Actually, that's the dumbest shit I ever hear anybody say. Let me lean in and say that one more time. That's the dumbest shit anybody ever says when something new comes out. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when the new thing comes out, and it's up here, and all the clowns that have to have it, hey, God, When they have to have it, they go out and fund it getting cheaper for you at some point. Right?
Yep.
I also think it's hilarious that somebody complains about a transducer cable, a brain box, all the things that go along with it and how much it costs from a cell phone that costs the same thing that cost 29 cents to be made in Sri Lanka. But they financed it through Verizon for 2 years at $39.99 a month, and they pay $1,800 for it.
Right.
I also think that's hilarious. That when people are complaining about the price of something that's got all this technology wrapped up in it, from a little device that like me and you are communicating on right now, well, you're probably on a computer. We got this little cell phone that costs, Apple nothing to make, and we pay $1,800 for it because it's like mainlined into our thing, and because it's more of an everyday device. Like, I think the cell phone costing the same amount as forward-facing sonar is hilarious. But that being said, I digress. Let me talk about the trickle-down effect. Trickle-down effect doesn't necessarily happen in economics like we tend to want to say it does and theorize about it. But it does happen in the world of technology. In 2005, 6, 7, when DSI was coming out, you had to buy the DSI transducer, you had to buy the DSI unit, you had to buy all and it was $800. In today's Biden money, that's about $200-300 more than forward-facing sonar is right now. And it was DSI. Right. Oh my God. You don't have to know how to read an arc anymore. You can just look at the damn screen and see a fish on it. That's just going to kill all the fish, and there ain't no fish can't hide no more. You know what I'm saying? So that was one. DSI was the same thing. So then structure scan comes along, same argument. Oh my God, you don't even got to look, and you don't got to be over it. You can see out to the side of the boat's 150 feet. God, you can just cover the whole lake. When structure scan came out, it was outrageous. DSI got cut in half. Now, today, you can buy a really high-end unit with mapping, with DSI, with structure scan, and with 2D sonar for less money than you could buy without the conversion than you could buy the original DSI depth finder 20 years ago, 18 years ago. Okay? So the argument about it being too expensive is silly too, because all of the leading edge people, the early adopter people, the pros, all that stuff that go invest in this technology, and it gets better and better, the other stuff gets cheaper.
Yeah.
The other stuff becomes more affordable and more attainable for the everyman, for the average feller, for the blah, blah, blah. Now, the part about being able to compete, if you can compete, you can find the money. This kid, Tyler, can find the money. You don't have to be a rich kid. This rich kid argument is stupid too. If you can compete, you can find the money. I think NASCAR got to the point where it doesn't matter how good you can drive, you don't have the funding to get out there and run the tracks and run with the competitive platforms and all that, so nobody can ever see your talent.
Right.
That's one thing. But if you can win your way through the college series like he did, if you can win in high school like he did, if you can win the stuff that he can win, you can find the money to go compete. Because the brands know that you're going to get the eyeballs, and the eyeballs are going to convert to sales. And so you can find the money to compete. So make no mistake about it. Very few people, if any, on the pro series, by the time they've qualified for the elites, are paying their own way.
Yeah.
They earned it. So it's compensation they earned.
Sure.
What I'm saying is they're not paying for that. It's not free, because I hate it when people say most be nice to get free stuff all the time.
Oh yeah, they're working still.
No, I work for it. Must be nice to just sit on a computer and shit on other people's work while you do nothing. But that's not what I'm doing right now. But what I'm saying is the best people are going to have the best products.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. John Cox chooses not to use high-end electronics, and the companies contact him every year to force it down his throat. In fact, I'm glad I mentioned that. If there's one person, and only one, in the entire sport of professional fishing that has a right to go out and bitch about forward-facing sonar, it's John Cox. He is still the only active pro today that I know of that's ever gone out on an event and just not even had it on his boat. I know some have done events and not used it, and this. He's gone out without it on his boat at the elite level and won events. He could be the guy that's like, yeah, I think it's stupid. Everybody else, shut up. Do you mean the last iteration's good, but not this iteration. You know, we come out with a new material that's more sensitive than graphite. Oh, we shouldn't be allowing that. Rods are too damn sensitive now. So from bamboo to fiberglass to graphite to carbon was good, but one more iteration is too much.
That's it. That's the line.
Yeah, this is the line. And so to me, if we think about it in some of the context that I've brought out, and I don't want to just be argumentative, I wanted to make some points about it, some analogies. I think it's the future. I think you can jump around and stamp your feet and complain and try to tear down other anglers all you want to. I think if you tear another angler down for going and fishing in a tournament series, for abiding by the rules and for being competitive, and you're doing that to a fellow angler, there's a word for that. It's called asshole. You're not an activist. You're not looking out for the sport. You're not doing any of those other things. You're an asshole. If you go to that person's page or to one of their sponsors' page and you call them a spotlighter or you crap on them, and all they're doing is going out and fishing, following the rules of the series that they're in to make a living, to take care of their family, to provide for their children, to do all of those things that you profess you do. My God, I'm a man's man. If you go do that to those people because you don't agree with what they're doing, you're an asshole. Plain and simple. If Randy Blockett only talked about the concept and how he thinks it'd be one thing, but calling specific anglers out by name and saying they couldn't catch fish if they weren't using it and all that other stuff, asshole. There's no other if, ands, or buts about it. That's what you're being. You know what I'm saying? You're being an asshole. You are specifically tearing down another human, trying to affect their livelihood, sitting behind a computer screen, trying to do it to benefit yourself while simultaneously trying to tear them down. There's only one word for that.
Yeah. How do we come down from this? I'm all jacked up.
Let's all start a GoFundMe to buy Randy Blockett some forward-facing sonar.
Oh, I'm sure some people will probably send it to him.
And then if he wins, then he can make the argument of how easy it is.
There you go. There it is.
If not, then do you really have an argument then? If all you got to do is put it on there and go out and fish and it's like magic, then do it and prove it.
Right. People will always be doing people stuff.
But what I started down this road and then I'll shut up after this. But like, I think fish are going to take care of themselves. I've already seen it on some other people's graphs when I'm fishing with them.
Right.
And you can see it sometimes on live when the scope comes under the screen. You'll see 3 fish. You'll see one of them take off.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be running from this stuff like a scalded dog in 3 years.
Yeah. I'm to the point where. Take care of
itself. And what I hope happens is there's 100 some bitches out there scoping around out in deep water. And then I'm back in some cove somewhere it hadn't been touched in 5 years because everybody's offshore scoping. And then I've got the fish to myself again. That's kind of what I hope happens, you know?
I mean, I'm to the point where if I'm feeling like they're running, I turn it off. I completely turn it off.
I've completely seen fish, just 2D sonar. I've gone from medium chirp to high chirp and watched a half a crappie school disappear.
Boom.
Like instantly. Like, wow. Damn. You know?
Wow.
So yeah, it's they'll adapt.
Sure.
Especially if they're in that school. And see, here's what used to happen. You used to catch a fish out of a school, right? And a lot of times that school would take off and you couldn't find them again. So yeah, you stung one fish in that school. Something happened and that fish got that imprintation. Now it's back over with its school again. Well, now with Live Target, you can find that school again.
Right.
You can catch 4 fish out of it, 5 fish out of it, 6 fish out of it. So now you've got in a school of fish, you got 6 or 7 out of 20 or 30 that have been stung right after they felt the sensation down their lateral line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next time you hit that school, for the people that have ever been turkey hunting before, it's like a flock of really old hens coming in ahead of the toms. Their heads are like this. You know what I mean? And they're overlapping fields of view with the 30 eyeballs makes it damn near impossible to get away with, crinkling your nose without getting busted. And so in my opinion, that's going to happen with live target, active target, all those, live scope, is eventually you're going to have 5, 6, 7 fish in that school that have been stung, felt that through their lateral line right before that. The next time they feel it, they're like, I remember that shit, gone. And when they go, they're going to take the rest of the school with them. And so there'll come a time when I firmly believe that there's going to be people out there chasing fish around that they can't catch.
Yeah. And then you'll see YouTube videos of that happening. Yep. Give it about a year.
I think it's probably 3, but I think I would say it's going to start. It's already started happening.
Right.
But I think it'll become a problem in 3 years. Like it'll be a visible problem. It'll be something that people actively talk about. The pendulum will swing in the opposite direction. And the guy that's winning will be like, yeah, man, I got out there and tried to scope him for the first 2 hours, but they was running from it like a scalded dog. So I went up and started pitching cypress trees and found the fish and got 42 pounds. And here I am, blue trophy. Yay!
Chad, as always, been a blast. And if you guys are coming in on the end of this, we talked about the Knucklehead. That's going to be happening on October 4th. Of course, I don't know how you live on this planet or love kayak fishing or listening to this podcast, but you haven't been over to KBF. If you're not a member there, if you're not following Chad on YouTube or all the other socials, take a moment, go over there, check him out, give him a like, give him a sub. Chad, I look forward to this year, man. It's going to be a blast.
I think so. And by the way, every time we do this, I get more and more backdrop envy because right now I'm just in this is not I was going to say a hotel. We're at a Quonset hut.
Oh.
In Florida at a base because I'm a retired Navy, so I'll take advantage of staying on bases when I can. But yeah, my backdrop envy grows every time. I think you guys you up your game every single time. Was the whole thing colored before?
It's a backlight. I have uplights. Gotcha. That's why. I moved one of my lights over here to make the whole.
But then you just had accent lighting before. Now the whole background's just lit up in your.
I try to change it up. I got this.
Like you glow.
See this thing right here? This is kind of fun. It's a YouTube subscriber count little doohickey deal.
Oh,
that's kind of fun. It kind of counts up every 100. So I don't know. So whenever I look at a video in the past, I'm like, oh, that was that time of my life. And that time of my content creation kind of career type deal.
So mine goes by weight and the grayness of my beard. You know what I mean?
I love it.
That was 10 pounds ago. That was 15 pounds ago. That was 30 pounds ago. That was 100 pounds ago. Oh, look at that. I still had some black in my beard back then. So
mine is length. I had a guy like, hey, I was going back in your YouTube stuff. He went back a few years. And he was like, hey, man, you're still knocking him out. I'm like, well, hopefully I've got better since then because you're looking at like video number 5 and man alive. A little embarrassed. And I love it at the same time. Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, dude. The amazing thing about this is the effect we get to have on people. Austin had an idea for a couple things that we needed to get to mimic the golden shiner here because we went out fishing day before yesterday and just caught a bunch of fish, but all the big fish were chasing golden shiner.
Okay.
So we go to Academy, we're checking out, and the lady's kind of looking at me, and we finish checking out, and she goes, can I ask you a question? I said, what's that? She goes, are you Chad Hoover? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, oh my God. I thought you were, but I wasn't sure. Me and my husband watch you all the time when we start drinking. I was like,
what? When we start drinking?
Yeah. Am I lying?
That's your go-to?
I said, hold on. I even got a video of it. I'm going to put it on social media tomorrow. She followed me outside to take a picture with her, but then she wanted me to, she'd do a video for her husband or whatever. And then I said, all right, let me do one myself. I did the video. I'm like, this is so-and-so from this particular establishment, blah, 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 blah. So tell us when you watch my show. Oh, me and my husband get to drinking. We love watching your stuff. I was like, okay, well, there you go. That's a first. And she's like, does this happen all the time? I said, yeah, it happens a lot, but I thought I was going to make it into and out of an academy without it happening. She's like, and then I ruined it. I was like, I mean, it's not ruined. It's part of it. But that's also what I love about fishing is that if you have fans or followers or whatever, it's a very respectful thing. It's not like you see in other sports where people have a following and the fans act like idiots. just because they freak out because they see somebody that they've seen on TV. So I love it. I don't like the people that come up to you while you're sitting down at a restaurant and they got their crotch like right here. And they're like, "Hey, I love your show. I don't want to bother you, but," and then they keep bothering you. It's like, "Hey, man, I'll be done in about 30 minutes. Where are you sitting? I'll come find you. We'll go outside." But it's just awesome that we get to have this opportunity to affect people, you know? And, I think that one reminder that I should send out, because I've not always done this, but like, just remember that. Remember that you are sharing information with people so they can go out and be successful doing the one thing that distracts them from the worst things in their life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and on that,
not everybody going fishing is trying to be a pro.
No,
not everybody going fishing is looking for a fight. Most people going fishing are looking for an escape. And that's probably the biggest reason I hate this forward-facing sonar fight / debate, is that it's toxic people are actually fishing for.
Well, folks.
So tomorrow, I get to go fishing without forward-facing sonar, but not being wrapped around the axle, being against it. Guess what? If I don't want to use it, I just won't.
Yeah, you just leave it at home.
Yeah. I get the magic of feeling the fish hit and didn't know it was about to hit.
Yeah.
Because I chose to. Anyway. All right.
I'm looking forward.
Man, thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate you. By the way, shout out to your shirt. We got one as well. He asked me for the size.
Yeah.
And I was kind of on the downward slope, and then I plateaued. So I got about 15 more LBs before I can wear it. Austin's worn his a couple of times, and I got to admit, it's one of the better looking fishing shirts ever. You want to tell the folks where you got that? And
yeah, so Bill, if you guys are familiar with the Steady Stick, is also running a line of apparel and hats, and he took this from the Benjamin Franklin quote. I forget what it was, something or die, and he basically
live free or die. We should take your American.
I don't think it wasn't.
Live free. It wasn't
live free or die. It had something to do with recruiting. That's why I didn't say live free. Live free or die is like Vermont's license plate thing. Yeah. And he has hats as well. So if you want to check it out, go to steadystick.com. If you want to get a Kayak or Die shirt or a hat, all that jazz. He's just a cool dude, as you know.
It is. It's a cool design, and it's a good conversation starter. So,
yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
Well, folks, I will see you. I actually have Clay Kayak Fishing on next week. And after that, Fishing with Gramps is going to be on. We're going to talk about those spring lures. Now, granted, a lot of lures are going to catch fish in the spring. What are the ones that typically perform for us? So we'll be sharing some of that juice. And I will see you guys next Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the Kayak Fishing Obsessed podcast. Thanks, Chad. You have a good one, brother.
All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate y'all.
I'll see you.
Bye.